All right, we are recording. Welcome to Take a Breath. Maybe we should take a breath. Another beautiful day here in Happy Valley.
Yeah, man.
How you doing, Joey?
How you doing?
Good, good.
I'm doing well. Yeah.
Crazy week.
Is that the same spot you were last time?
Yeah, good question. I tried a different spot, a little bit outside of campus. They had tables and the trees were blooming and I sat down and my connection was a little spotty. So I came back to the same spot. But I do want to do some recording up at the Arboretum because it's just gorgeous. So hopefully I can get some recording up there. But yeah, I came back to the same spot just because I knew it worked last week. But the idea is to kind of move around different spots. Yeah.
I really enjoyed our first podcast, and I got to tell you, I was really looking forward to this one. So
I thank you everyone.
Let's get to it.
Yeah, first, thank you for everybody that viewed our podcast. We appreciate you viewing and the comments. We got some great comments and some tips. I know if I want brutal honesty, I ask my wife, I ask Joe, and I definitely, if I want the truth, I ask my kids. But they don't know too much about website intelligence and email marketing. But
well, the two best things that I do when we are like trying to figure out a marketing message is I ask my mother if she understands, and I ask my kids.
Right. Those are two good test drives. Yeah.
Right.
So good. Yeah. Again, thanks for everyone for their comments. I was excited because we had customers asking more questions about what are these hooks? What are these MergedAnalytics hooks with CRMs and ESPs? So we did have some conversations about that after our last week's podcast, which was exciting.
We did.
We did. Yeah.
What just picking up on what you just said, we talked about, because when we developed this product, it was a B2B tool, and it was about getting business names, the business names that are on your website, how they found it, etc. And that was great. And we always, from the beginning, were like, we got to get to the email level. But we weren't, we don't use cookies. Everything is based off of the IP address. So the only way to get to the email level is to tie into a CRM or an ESP, email service provider. So that's
right.
But I'm sorry, you were saying something.
Well, no. We're going back and forth. I was trying to go to what happened after our first podcast. And again, we encourage everyone to, provide their feedback, comments. Joe and I have very thick skin. We've been in the business for 20 years. So brutal honesty is the only way that we can improve ourselves and our products. But to your point, and I think it's coming out of this, the pandemic that we're in, but I'm having more conversations about email marketing.
Yeah.
Email marketing has been around for a long time, and you and I have been doing it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it started to not get a bad rap, but it started to lose itself in the sauce. It became more noise if you're not doing it properly.
Right.
And we're hearing more about it now because it is a great way to softly reach out, make sure your customers are okay, understand a little bit more about where they're at, track a little bit about their what their needs are without calling them and banging away. So I've been having more conversations about email marketing. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that today.
Sure, Tom. I would like to talk about that too with you. Basically, look, email marketing did fall out of favor, and the reason is because people were becoming lazy and taking advantage of email marketing. Because why? Because it's easy. So you could spray and pray to all these, names that you have. Maybe you bought a list or whatever it is, and you send an email hoping that someone's going to read something in that email, and they're going to be like, yes, I got to talk to this person.
Right.
And that is very difficult. You annoy people. It's spam. and it could actually do the exact opposite of what you're trying to achieve.
Right.
So, you know, we had to be careful about that. But now that everyone is home and not in the office, and you don't know where to call these people, how are you going to get in touch with them?
Right.
You have to email them.
Yeah.
So if you have a list, if you have a
Yeah.
list of these people,
Right.
you email them, and then, you know, but go ahead.
No, I think you're right on. I think, you know, this is a good exercise for us. You know, I mean, we've been email marketing for a long time, and we're starting to obviously get back into it heavily, you know, more consistently. And with our MergedAnalytics book, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, it becomes much more exciting, you know, than just an email blast. But to your point, maybe we should try to put together like a top 10 list of what, you know, what are the do's and do nots, or golden rule. One thing you mentioned is the list.
Yes.
It's not about size. Email list, it's not about the size of the list, it's about the quality of the list. You want to make sure your lists, you know, are people that opt in, that you have close relationships with. Those are the lists that you want to start with and obviously grow. So I would put that as one of my golden rules. You know, make sure you have a good list. And then maybe after this podcast, we can write down all the things that we talked about and post it with our video on
Absolutely.
LinkedIn or whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, aside from having a good list, and there are various ways, you know, whether you have people opt in, and I mean, there are various ways to get good lists. But once you have a list, you know, using our own company as an example, we're not going to send the same email out to our construction customers and prospects than we would to our executive search customers that own those businesses. I mean, although the tool does the same thing for everyone, everyone uses the information differently.
Right.
So, I mean, you have to, so when you have these different audiences, these target audiences so you have a list, and then you have to segment that list by, you know, people who would be interested in similar things. You don't want to send, you know, something to the construction world that would not resonate with them and maybe turn them off.
Yeah, and that takes time to do. You know, like to segment your audience and then target them properly. It takes a little time, but it's quite powerful.
I mean, there are businesses that just do that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And then you can understand if your message is resonating, and then grow from there. What about like what are some other things that you would recommend somebody that's, you know, kind of like email marketing 101? I know consistency is king, you know, as far as your brand. If you are engaging with email marketing, commit. So you want to commit to email marketing and do it once a month, or once every 2 months, or once a week, or whatever your audience requires. Some people, it makes sense to send out information on a weekly basis, some monthly, some bi-monthly. But the point there is, be consistent. This is marketing. Don't expect people to pick up the phone and call you email blast 2. They may not call you until email blast 15. But if they aren't opting out, you continue to be a top of mind presence for that audience. Yeah.
So two things: consistency, and emailing. Two thoughts of something that you just said. Consistency means consistency in everything, from the look and feel, your branding.
Right.
You know, you want a consistent message. May even make sense to have it look sort of like, you know, your color scheme and fonts that you have on your website. So, I mean, consistency subconsciously makes people feel comfortable. For example, if I go to a Burger King in the United States, I'm going to have a very similar experience at that Burger King if I go to China. I mean, obviously there'll be differences, but consistent as well. That's number one. Number two, with email marketing, and this just came up on a conversation I had earlier with a printing company, but you really want the pixel, the MergedAnalytics pixel on your website, because you could be sending out a great email that has a link to your whatever you're trying to drive people to, and somebody gets that email and they don't do anything. They don't react to the call to action.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But later on, they may go to your website.
Yeah.
So you may not necessarily know, that so they saw an email from you, they didn't do anything with it, but they made a mental note later on, I want to go to MergedAnalytics.com. And you still get those analytics. You don't necessarily know it came, when you talk to that person, you can say, how'd you find out about us, or how'd you land on this page? But it's important to have a multi-pronged, it's not just email marketing. You need to email market, you need to use our short URLs, which I'm sure we'll get into. And then you need to have the pixel on the website for this all to make your life easy.
You nailed two, what I would consider, two more golden rules to this list that Joe and I are winging. The call to action. Call to action is obviously very important. I mean, this is all one-on-one stuff, but it's very important to get it right, or as close as possible the first and second time, because it's your first dance. So a call to action, and what I've read is call to action should be they call it above the fold and towards the top of the email. You don't want to lose it in the bottom. So call to action should be closer to the top. And then the important thing that you mentioned that ties in MergedAnalytics is tracking. If you were spending all this time putting together a message, balancing your content and your images, putting in a proper call to action, you want to track who's seeing and opening my emails. But there are solid limitations with ESPs and CRMs where the email will drive your audience to a website, but it's one landing page.
Right.
So what happens when that customer goes to the landing page or prospect and bounces around to 4 other pages and they're interested in another product or service? That's where MergedAnalytics comes in. That's where we can deliver the full customer journey where the ESP leaves off. But more than that is what you were saying. I lost my train of thought.
Yeah. Well, one thing also when
they go back to the website.
Yeah.
So the audience, the recipient gets the email, you get the full journey. They're not going to go back to the email and go to the website. They're going to go back to the email 3 days later, 4 days later, 8 days later. That's where MergedAnalytics comes in. We'll send you that intelligence saying, hey, this person's interested in this information. If you don't know them, if you don't softly reach out to them, you should. Mm-hmm. And that's really the power with when MergedAnalytics meets these ESPs and CRMs. Sorry, Joe. I lost my train of thought.
Well, there are a few things. Also, let's say they do click the call to action, and they go to your website, and then nothing happens. But then a few days later, they go back to your website. You're gonna still MergedAnalytics will remember that email address.
Yeah.
So you'll get an alert, not from company ABC. You're going to get an alert that says Joe Singer at abc.com clicked on this page. And then you're going to be able to, with the data that's in MergedAnalytics, understand, oh yeah, I sent this guy an email or a few emails and he did click. And then I haven't heard from him. And now he's back on my website. Looks like he's interested, type of thing.
And
Number one. One other thing. Joe, we talk about call to action.
Right.
Okay. Now, this was, and the reason why I'm bringing it up is because this also was in a conversation I just had with my buddy at a printing company.
Right.
You learn this in marketing school, and a shout out to one of my mentors, Jerry Sharashevsky, who used to work at Yahoo. But he taught me very early on that you need to treat your audience as if they're a gorilla. And you need to feed that gorilla. So you give that gorilla a banana, but don't just give them the banana. You peel that banana for them.
Right.
And the call to action, it's not, you can't assume it's going to be obvious to people. You need to spell it out. Click here and this happens, or click here and then do this.
Right.
You have to tell them exactly what to do. So I just wanted to make sure
And I got to say, Mailchimp does a great job at that. I'm sure that's why they call their product Mailchimp.
I
They
think you're
really
right.
take
Yeah.
banana and make it easy. But yeah, no, yeah, good stuff. I'm trying to think of some other rules that I
Well,
would.
another rule
Yeah.
you mentioned, you have to be consistent, and whether it's biweekly, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever.
Right.
But you also have to know your audience, and there is something known as newsletter fatigue or whatever it's called. Like, you
Right.
don't want to send too many, because then they're gonna be like, "Oh, there's another newsletter. What can they possibly be telling me now?" So
To
you
that
want to
point,
space it out
keep it short. That's a rule.
always.
Keep your email blast short. And it's today we live in a very visual world,
Yeah.
but you got to put some content, in the blast. There's a balance, and I think that balance is specific to different audiences and industries. But you want to have a good balance of image and content or context. So that's important. But to your point, keep it short and sweet. 2 page. I mean, I remember 15, 20 years ago, we had like 5 pagers or three, and they're just like, no one's gonna. I mean, God, no one's reading all these, and it's just a lot of
The effort
energy
that
that
we
you
used to
could
put into
parse
those
out.
newsletters.
What's that?
The effort that we used to put into
Yeah,
those newsletters. My God,
yeah,
it was,
yeah.
we didn't know what we didn't know. So,
No, I know,
that's
and these are. I mean, some of these golden rules are. I'm going back in time, and these are
yeah.
things that we've learned just knowing what we did when we sent it. It was a lot of trial and error, some A/B testing, but we just didn't know what we didn't know many years ago. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
15, 16 years ago, seven,
Mm-hmm.
and we've gotten a rhythm and some help from our our friends, how to craft them a little better, and we're always looking for suggestions and better ideas to tweak our messages too. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
keep it short. And I,
Well,
uh,
yeah, go ahead.
but yeah, I'd say, and always make sure, and this is 101 stuff. It's obvious, but test your email before you send it out.
Yes.
Joey, how many times have we tested email? We're like, oh my gosh, how do we misspell that? Or if we sent this out to 200 or 500 people, this is not the right message, or this is a mistake. So test among your friends or your colleagues, your partners, or whatever. But that's important. It's important. Yeah.
Absolutely. You don't want to, and what you just said is right. You don't want to edit, you don't want to edit your own work. So send them out to some, what we call friendlies, and do send it to yourself, because when you're editing something in, let's say, your Mailchimp or whatever, it looks fine. But when you actually send it, you read it differently.
Right.
So try to read it as if you are the recipient, and then you'll see the spelling mistakes, or whether you spelled there THEIR, whether it should be THERE.
Right.
Little things like that
I'm a
can ruin
terrible
the
spelling,
deal,
and my images are always shifted. I'm
and
like
that
they
too.
were centered in the in the tool, and then they shift, and then you're like, then sometimes you got to just start over, reboot or
Sometimes
whatever.
you don't know if, like, you're
Yeah.
using different font in the first half versus the second. It's
Right.
little things.
Right.
But so I think we should talk specific. I mean, we keep bringing up Mailchimp.
Right.
Mailchimp seems to be, there are various email packages: Constant Contact, HubSpot, iContact,
Right.
Aweber, right? I mean, there's a million of them.
Yeah. Yeah. You just named the
Um,
biggies. Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
yeah, doing similar things. And we could do what we're talking about with any of these systems, but we really just tightened up our Mailchimp integration to the point where it's awesome. If you create, let's say, a mailing in Mailchimp, and then you create a short URL in MergedAnalytics, and you pick up the contact ID of the people that you're sending that email in Mailchimp. When you actually send that email and the recipient clicks that link in the email that they sent out of Mailchimp, um, you then start getting analytics of all the people who clicked that short URL. But the good news there is that when you get an alert and one of these days we should actually on our podcast show what an alert looks like. But on an alert, it says company name, what company visited, how they found you, where they were located, and the pages that they looked at. But when we integrate this with Mailchimp specifically, instead of the company name, because we're picking up that contact ID, you're going to see Jay Singer at MergedAnalytics.com clicked on your website, and that's going to be a hot link. So if I click my email address that it said Joe Singer at MergedAnalytics.com, click this link and went to your website, by you clicking that hot link, it'll take you to my record in Mailchimp, and you could look around and
it's awesome. It's powerful. Yeah. And I think you put your little techie hat on there talking about contact IDs.
I did.
I love it.
I did. I got dizzy.
But it's awesome, and it's also very easy to set up. All you need is your API key and your audience ID, and you're off to the races.
And a dream.
You are getting more intelligence than you are today. I was on actually the day after our podcast. I was talking to one of our customers, and timing was great. He's like, I was just talking about what you were talking about last week to our sales rep for their CRM. And I think their CRM was consensual, but they also use Mailchimp in parallel to their marketing efforts. And we were on for 20 minutes, and it didn't take me long to show the value quickly on what our hook does. And for anyone that doesn't know, the hook comes with our product. He goes, well, send me over pricing, and I'm like, no, it's free, and it can't be that.
Yeah, you get it. Yeah.
And he's like, this is awesome. So that was a positive that came out of our last podcast. And why it's positive is because I think that the reactions that we received, we're talking about the right things, that the people that are listening. My wife was like, you got to make your podcast. She doesn't listen to podcasts. You got to make them interesting. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? What, you and Joey just up there talking? Yeah. Hopefully somebody tunes in and learns something or has questions that we can help them with.
Well, and just bringing it back to the Mailchimp thing, a lot of people who use these email systems are like, well, I get analytics. I don't get why I need MergedAnalytics. I get these analytics.
Right.
And that is true. You get some analytics from that mailing.
Right. What
we're talking about is after that initial click, right, where do they go after that?
Let's finish the journey. Let's
finish the journey. How many times do they go back to that landing page in your website? You're going to get all those analytics. It's not just, hey, Joe opened up the email and clicked the link.
Right.
You're taking about 1,000 steps further.
Sorry, Joey. But I'm excited because that's exactly the conversation I had with our customer. He's like, you got it. Like, I had to walk him through it 2 or 3 times. He's like, I'm not sure what the value is. And then we, the second or third time, the light bulb went off. He's like, oh, I get it. So when somebody comes back to the website, or if somebody jumps around on multiple pages, I'm getting all that intelligence. Because it's not, the ESPs give great, they give good reports, but it stops. It stops at they went here.
It's limited.
That's it. Yeah. And a lot of them, just FYI, a lot of it is fabricated and false with the bots and crawlers. But that's a whole nother discussion.
Well, that's important because we filter that stuff out and they don't. So that's important.
But the real power is if I see somebody coming back multiple times, then I know there's real strong interest, and I need to nurture that prospect or customer with the intelligence that I'm getting. And
there's other things that's important. If they keep coming back, you're like, wow, my mailings are working.
Exactly. Very good. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. So
we're trying to keep these to 30 minutes. I guess a couple other things I would add to our golden rule list. I'm a big analysis paralysis guy. Don't spend too much time. Joey's good about cranking stuff out. Don't spend a ton of time on your email blast. Spend enough time, but if you're spending, days and days, then you could be going backwards, and once you get in the rhythm, you can, carve out X amount of time. But you don't want to spend too much time because most of the time that initial message is what people want to hear, you know. And I would say that, and then don't forget to put your contact information on the email.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people don't do that, you know, like
Yeah.
they forget. And if somebody's interested, they want to contact you, you want to make sure they can. So those are, you know, 101 rules, but I would put them to the list. Yeah, on the list.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are great points. You know, keeping it simple. You know, because I mean, look, we live and breathe this stuff all day. We're thinking about URLs and analytics, and I mean, no one else is doing that, right? So what's simple to us may not be simple to everybody else, and the
Right.
same is true when you're creating an email. You may think it's simple, but that's why you should have other people read it. Keep it simple, keep it easy to understand. Don't get into too many details.
Right.
You know, I always use the analogy of, and you brought this up just now, where I crank stuff out. The stuff that I tend to do fast and don't scrutinize and not put that much thought in,
Right.
surprisingly usually gets the
The
best
most.
clicks, and you know, I have the highest analytics for that.
Yeah.
Whereas you know, just like, you know, famous songs that were written by the Beatles or Neil Young, that was like in 5 minutes became the biggest hit. Whereas songs they scrutinized forever and ever and ever, never went anywhere.
Good
Same
analogy.
thing. So you just, you know, the pump out content. You never know what's going to resonate, and that's why you just got to keep creating. Is really the message.
I love it. No, that's great. Absolutely. So, yeah. So after this, Joey, I'll convert it, obviously, and then I'll kind of write down the rules that we outlined, and then
Mm-hmm.
we'll include them in the post. So if you
Yeah.
know, if we can help anyone with that information, that's what we want to do. And if anyone does have Mailchimp out there, please contact us. Our MergedAnalytics now with that marrying Mailchimp, it's just powerful stuff and exciting. You know, it's that simple. Yeah.
I have a very important question to ask you.
Yes,
What are you having for lunch?
I am hungry. What am I having for lunch? I don't know. We just went to the store yesterday, so we have food at home.
All right,
Um,
that's half the battle.
maybe some tomato soup
Okay.
and like a BLT and a tomato soup. It's
Soup
one of
and
those
soup and a
days.
sandwich.
Huh?
Soup and sandwich. I like it.
Sandwich. Yeah, it's chilly here. It's
Yeah.
windy. It's beautiful, but it's a soup and sandwich day. Yeah.
Good. Well,
How
you
about
enjoy your soup and sandwich. I don't know. I don't know. We didn't go shopping.
Yeah.
So I'm getting very creative, actually. We'll see. I don't know. Probably eggs.
You were freezing up on me, but I'm going to stop recording. Everyone, thank
Ah,
you.
okay.
Please, again, comments, brutal honesty. If you have any questions, you want to hear something specific to our world or not on a podcast, let us know. And
Yeah, if you want to hear something, say something.
if you want to hear something, say something. And most importantly, take a breath.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
All right, man.